mixed martial arts is the easiest sport to become a champion in because when you fight boxing, it's boxing. Every person you fight in boxing is going to be good at boxing. Everybody you fight in kickboxing is going to be good at kickboxing. When you do mixed martial arts, you're going to have people who have significant big holes in them, right? You have a guy like Alex Pereira. He's 6-1, now he's 7-1. He's became a world champion in mixed martial arts, right? So for that person, they're both good at striking. But once somebody comes into mixed martial arts, they can have a huge hole in mixed martial arts and become a world champion, right? Like they can have no wrestling experience and still become a world champion. You look at Brock Lesnar, he became a world champion in mixed martial arts and he had no stand-up experience whatsoever. So that's why I say mixed martial arts is the easiest sport to become a world champion in, because you can have deficiencies and still become a world champion. In boxing, kickboxing, you can't have any deficiencies. You have to be a good boxer in order to become a world champion. You just have to.
Okay, so he does have a point. There are holes in people's games in MMA because there's so many different types of martial arts.
So many things allowed.
So many things allowed. Correct. And he is correct in that area. But where I'm going to try to pick this apart a little bit, and I love DJ, and I think I understand what he's trying to say. But using Brock and using Alex as an example, and I'm going to use him as an example as well, is you just pick the 3 weakest weight classes in the whole sport. And I've always said this, and it drives John nuts, but I'm going to continue to say it. Heavyweights, 205 pounders and 125 pounders are the weakest weight class. There's not a lot of them out there that are good and well-rounded. DJ, that's why he is so damn good. That's why he's such a freak, is because he's so good everywhere. He's good on the feet. He's got good wrestling. He's extremely dynamic and fast. His fight IQ is fucking probably the best in the game we've ever seen. He is a brilliant fighter. Nobody else is on his level. And there's not a lot of them at 125. There's not a lot of guys that are walking around 125 pounds or 140 pounds that can make 125 and fight at the level of him. No, Henry Cejudo was the only one out of the years that he was the champion there that even gave him somewhat of a challenge. You know, I mean, there was the guy from the Ultimate Fighter that came on. It was a scrappy little fight. Yeah, but DJ ran away with it. DJ was a very dominant. DJ still is a dominant fighter. At the heavyweight division, anytime, and I've said this repeatedly, Brock Lesnar came in. If you have a wrestler in the heavyweight division, they are 9 times out of 10 going to win that division because heavyweights do not wrestle. If you look at the guys that are there right now, none of them really can wrestle. Some of them now are starting to get good on the ground. Why do you think like guys like Verdum were so good? Why do you think guys like Cain Velasquez in DC were so good? John Jones at heavyweight is going to be fucking a terror because he can wrestle. And he's got submissions and he can strike. I mean, these guys are so good in those areas. And when you talk about Alex getting to 185, which I've said, the 85-pound division is probably one of the weakest, if not the weakest division in the sport. And I'm not knocking Izzy. I'm not knocking Alex. I'm not knocking anybody that fought at 185. I'm just simply telling you that is where the weight classes start to separate from each other. At 185 pounds, those athletes are playing football, baseball, or had dreams of being football players and baseball players and tennis players or whatever sports that actually make a shit ton of money. They ran with that because they were probably on that level. So you're not going to get those fighters, the top level athletes, that come into fighting when like, why the hell would I get punched in the face when I have a chance to play college ball and then maybe make it to the pros and make millions and millions of dollars, you know, and hundreds of millions of dollars. And so those fighters have taken themselves out of that equation in terms of MMA. Those are the things that I'm looking at when I'm hearing his argument. You took the weight classes and Alex Pereira, they made that opportunity. And that's where this is a little shady too. It's not shady. It's just that the promotion knew that Izzy had been on a run and they wanted to get...
He'd been on a run, but he had a kickboxing career with this individual who had beaten him several times, one by decision, one by knockout. And they looked at it. This is called marketing. And so they pushed that agenda.
And that's where it's different from, that's when you were talking about the boxing. That's where it's different. The UFC has the ability to put somebody in there and build them to get them to the title faster than if somebody was in boxing where, no, we'll wait. Yeah. We'll wait until we're ready to fight you. That's why we never see the best boxers fight the best boxers.
Well, it's also because you have a sanctioning body that WBA or WBC that don't get along. They don't agree on a certain thing. So that fighter gets pushed down, one gets pushed up. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that take place in those, so that fighter can't at that, to say can't. Most of the time, almost 100%, unless you're Vasily Lomachenko, you're not going to get that championship fight right away because there's too many guys that have these records that are being, kind of padded, but not all of them, but most of them are being padded. If you're a Lomachenko, you get it based upon 400 fights in the amateurs, 2 gold medals, things like that.
I was sitting with the manager the other day and having a conversation with him, and he was talking about how, look, if you're a boxer, you're the best boxer in the world. And in my mind, I'm like, no, you don't, because your promoter is probably holding you back away from the best boxers in the world because they don't want you to lose because you're the cash cow. It's no different than when you watch Rocky III, Clubber Lang and Rocky Balboa. His manager kept him away from that fighter. For how long? Because he didn't want him to fight him because he knew he couldn't beat him because Rocky's head was in a different area. Whatever it was. Okay, I'm giving you guys something to feed it off of. But it really comes down to that. The promoters of each fighter in boxing has the ability to shut down fights.
Look at Eddie Hearn.
Yes.
Eddie Hearn has Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua beats freaking Klitschko and is the monster, and he was keeping him away from people. And he puts him in a fight with Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz beats him, and because he was trying to manipulate exactly what you're talking about.
So what happens is they play their favors, whether it's the promoters for boxing and whether it's the promoters in whatever MMA promotion. They're trying to fast track someone to get there. So no, I'm not in agreement with him. Maybe that is easy to become champion. Maybe it's easier, I should say, to become champion. But in the heavyweight, 205, 185, and 125.
Okay.
But I'm sorry. No one's coming off the street 6-1 and winning a title in the lightweight and the featherweight and the bantamweight division. Bullshit. I call bullshit. There's just no way. I would even say the same thing about 170. That's that 35 to 70 pound range. Those guys, they're the most well-rounded fighters in the game. I mean, outside of DJ. They're the most well-rounded fighters in the game. They're fucking animals. They're good on the feet. They're good wrestling. The years of the double leg takedown being effective, they're far and gone in those weight classes.
Gone.
You've got to chain wrestle. You've got to hit the single to the double to the fence and then bounce you off the fence, and lift and scoop and turn you away from the fence and get you back in the middle of the cage. Those days that's what it is now. The old days, they're gone. The striking has gotten so much better. They're just animals on the feet now. Checking kicks, kicking the rear leg, mixing up the combinations. And you're like, man, I didn't even think these people can move like that. These kids are fucking animals in those weight classes. So I disagree with him. Got nothing but respect for him. But he chose the weight classes to pick his argument. And of course, those are the weakest weight classes in the sport. Now, I'm not saying, like I'm going to repeat again, I'm not saying that those fighters are not spectacular. I'm just saying that the well-roundedness of those divisions are not there. And the amount of people in the flyweight division is just not there. Okay, you have top 2 or 3, and that's it. There's not a lot in that division to choose from. So I love DJ. I understand where he was going with it and why he thinks that way. But that ain't happening from 135 to 170. Nobody's coming in like Alex Pereira came in and is going to win titles in 6-7 fights. It ain't going to happen. And if someone can you point out someone that has done that in those weight classes? I mean, outside of since the beginning of the sport,